I was a bit surprised when I came to Sudbury, and there's this, at the time, pretty brand new lab with state-of-the-art equipment, and ever since then there's been really strong initiative to keep the infrastructure current and highly functional, and that's a good reason why I stayed. And by then we got used to the community, of established friends, wonderful standard of living. I don't live that far from the university or from the hospital, and life is pretty grand. I've always had a strong interest in chemotherapy response, and why, sadly, the majority of cancer patients don't get a survival benefit from chemotherapy. One of the things we thought would be creative was to look into the genetics of patient tumors, and whether we could tell anything about the genetic background of both the patient and the tumors, and whether that might be able to help inform us in terms of who is likely to respond to chemotherapy or who isn't. And the pleasant accident was, in order to do those genetic studies, we had to isolate ribonucleic acid, or RNA, from tumors. Well, it turns out that the ribonucleic acid itself turned out to be an excellent diagnostic. So we looked at the survival of patients and whether our test during the middle of therapy could make a prediction in terms of which patients would survive longer than others. And it turns out very clearly that those patients with very poor tumor RNA quality then ended up surviving a lot longer than patients that had very good RNA quality during treatment. So this validates the potential utility of the test, and we're in the process of working with partners throughout the globe. We're talking Italy, Germany, the United Kingdom, the US, Canada, all providing materials to allow us to assess whether this approach is going to work in a broad range of patients. I'm really happy with the way things have evolved. Typically what happens in a lot of institutions is there's silo building, and so institutions tend to take care of themselves and often see other institutions as potentially a threat to their own fundraising efforts or their own initiatives, when in fact Sudbury's too small to have cliques. And in fact, we really need to work together to achieve goals, and I think that's what you're seeing in Sudbury. Laurentian University graduate programs help to staff a lot of the research staff that we have here at the hospital. That's one example. Some of the scientists here at the hospital and myself as a Laurentian University professor, we teach at the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. So each of the institutions is benefiting from our expertise, and collectively we can achieve much greater goals than we could individually. So I'm really pleased with the way things have developed over time. One of the things that I'm hoping RNA diagnostics participates front and center in is this whole concept of personalized medicine, where essentially a patient is treated based specifically on their tumor and on their genetic history and background, and everything is tailored to the patient, so that we only provide treatments that are going to work to patients, instead of these lottery systems right now, where right now we can't determine whether the chemotherapy regimen is going to work on this patient or that one, so we have to treat all of them. I just hope to make a difference in the lives of cancer patients. If I succeed in doing that, and I think the prospect is on the horizon, and that excites me to no end. We always dream that we can make a difference in the lives of people throughout the world. There's no higher calling than to relieve suffering and to improve the quality of life for people, and especially for cancer patients that suffer with the disease and suffer from the treatments from the disease. So if this is as promising as we believe it is, and we can validate that in subsequent studies, and this is adopted worldwide, I'd be all dance for you. I'm Amadeo Parissenti, and I'm a molecular biologist.